Welcome to the presentation. The presentation is Cybersecurity Industry 4.0, and it's all you should know about cybersecurity and Industry 4.0. Now, you're probably curious, what is Industry 4.0? Industry 4.0 is kind of a particular industrial revolution that's ongoing right now. If you look years back, 1784, you'll see Industry 1.0. And this is the mechanization, steam power, the weaving loom. These are the particular items that were part of Industry 1.0. Now, if you jump to 1870, you'll see Industry 2.0. Now you have mass production, you have the assembly line, you have electrical energy, right? And then when you go to 1969, you see Industry 3.0. This is automation, computers, electronics, right? And then what we have today is Industry 4.0. The cyber physical systems, Internet of Things, are commonly known as IoT, and then you have complex networks. So we're currently in Industry 4.0, and so what's occurring right now is unparalleled levels of data exchange. So you have a hyper-connected system that includes the smarter use of robotics to effectively and efficiently move manufacturing to new heights. Now, while we are in Industry 4.0, we have to think about all these cybersecurity ramifications. A survey that was conducted in the United Kingdom, they've noticed that nearly half of all the manufacturers experience cybersecurity attacks. And when you look at overall preparedness among UK manufacturers, you can kind of see here from the chart that a number of companies may be falling behind in terms of preparedness for cybersecurity. What's interesting, when you think about manufacturing is a critical infrastructure identified by the Department of Homeland Security here in the United States. So this is one of the 16 areas identified for critical infrastructure. So when you think about manufacturing, you have to think about the important and critical role it plays in society and in a gross domestic product for a country. So you look here, you say, we monitor and protect their systems and software from cyber attack. 75%, right? That means there's 25% that aren't monitoring. And then these 75% that are monitoring, what really are they doing? Are they just running particular tools and diagnostic tools to see, okay, well, were we attacked? Is it more in terms of being reactive than actually reactive or responsive? What I mean is, our organizations pretty much fighting the particular attack or looking for the attack before it comes and stuff like that. And so that is one of the things that is kind of shrouded when you look at a survey. And then also when you look at training the staff in cybersecurity, there is going to be a global shortage of 3.5 million cybersecurity professionals in the coming years. What that means is there's lots of opportunity for individuals trying to get in this field, but on the negative side, that means organizations do not have the staff that they need to properly protect their actual systems. Now, digging a little bit deeper into the cybersecurity attacks experienced by half all manufacturers, you'll see right here that 24% answered that their cybersecurity processes have been prevented any business impact. And then you look here, it says, they sustained financial other business losses due to a cyber attack, 24%. Various countries have various laws and regulations regarding these. So you think about ransomware and stuff like that. So if an organization gets ransomware in their manufacturing floor, they get ransomware in their particular organization, and if they pay that, they could get in trouble by indirectly supporting terrorist activity. So that yet makes things more complex in terms of how you actually deal with loss of data or your data being withheld. Do you have the ability to make use of that data that you had recently that is now encrypted or being held for ransom? So Shamoon was a virus. It was a malware that hit a particular oil company. And so this was interesting. This was in 2018. And so this was a particular malware that surfaced back in 2011, 2012, and then 2018, it did a full-fledged attack, and it basically hit servers based in the Middle East, India, Aberdeen, and in a limited way, Italy. And so this is kind of important. So when we think about manufacturing, you have to think about all the particular manufacturing industries or sectors across the world, because they're all susceptible. Now, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, they had a massive cybersecurity attack that attacked Saudi Aramco, right? So Saudi Aramco is it's a state-sponsored oil company in Saudi Arabia, and they produce a ton of oil, right? So they were under attack. So in like a matter of hours, 35,000 computers were partially wiped out or totally destroyed, right? So their ability to supply 10% of the world's oil was at risk due to this particular attack. For them to fix this item, they had to fly in servers and other computing systems on planes, on charter planes, back to Saudi Arabia just to fix all the damage that has been done. Now you think about this. So this particular company has unlimited resources, but if it's an organization that doesn't have the same amount of resources, that organization would be out of business, right? And so when you think about this, they're in the modern age, but due to this attack, they were propelled back to the 1970s using typewriters and faxes to do their daily job, right? Lots of organizations want to have this internet-enabled technology to help them sift through this data, collect more data, and automate a lot of activities. And that's good. But however, if they don't protect those particular functions, then that's a big risk, because those functions can be, I guess you can say, changed or modified to do other activities, which could, put the company's business at risk. So let's look at the Internet of Things in terms of manufacturing. So this is a large-scale picture talking about IoT and manufacturing. You can see here from the manufacturing plant to the global facility to the customer site, global operations, all the way to logistics, how IoT plays a key part. And you can see all the different particular functions here where IoT happens. However, this isn't inclusive of everything. This is just a quick view of IoT. So here you can see that third-party logistics. And so here it just says provide cross-channel visibility into inventories to optimize supply and reduce share costs in the supply chain. So whenever someone is scanning a particular item, RFID, they're scanning an item, it gets logged into a particular database. That database is tied to another database. And from there, it says, all right, well, we have this particular item, the codes match up, and they're able to track and say, okay, well, where's this particular product going? And it's moving from system to system, it's being tracked, right? So you have that all the way down to the individual who's actually perhaps part of the supply chain in terms of actually building the product that's here, right? So you have any particular product, maybe you have a software product, and that software product, that organization that serves as the prime, whoever it may be, they will have tons of subs, and they will all develop different components. So that's all part of supply chain, and all that is tied to this particular environment. So the environment pretty much brings everything together, and that itself creates a truly complex network or a system of systems that needs to be protected. So right here, research and development. So it says, I gain insight into usage patterns from multiple customers and track equipment deterioration, enabling me to re-engineer products for better performance. So you're trying to re-engineer products based on customer feedback and stuff like that. Now, if someone was to go in and actually manipulate those feedback reports and stuff like that, then R&D would create a product that may not be better, but it may in fact be worse, right? So say if it's a particular screen and it could cause seizures, right? But the reports they get back is like, hey, this screen is working fine, add these other elements, and these other elements could cause yet more damage to the individual using the screen or the screens or whatnot, right? So this is a way that, this particular environment could be taken advantage of in terms of a cyber attack or something like that. Also, with R&D, they're getting data. So if any of the data is actually, all right, so when R&D is getting data back and they're to figure out, what items that they need to do or elements that need to be changed, a particular actor, a bad actor, could go in there, change the data in a way that R&D moves the product development for what they want to do. Additionally, if it's a bad actor who doesn't want to, per se, do any damage to the product, but steal intellectual property, they could do that. They could go into the system, go into the system that contain the R&D data, and start copying all those particular data over. Or they could create an account, and then with that account, they can continuously go in and do everything that's being updated, right? So that is something that could happen with an R&D. Sorry. Now, third-party logistics is interesting because supply chain wasn't really a thing that was thought of. When you're thinking about securing systems and software and stuff like that, you have to think about the entire life cycle of supply chain, which includes third-party logistics. So a number of organizations, we'll take a credit card company, for example, right? So you have a major credit card company that is providing a particular service, but it will be a third party that may take advantage of what that credit card is doing in order to enable stuff for their product that they sell to their customer, right? So you have to extend cybersecurity beyond the particular first or prime organization to that third party, right? So you think about automation and you think about smart vehicles and stuff like that. Well, now you have to make sure that and this is just talking more in terms of physical and some of the automation, that no one messes up with pre-planned routes or anything like that, or they're doing any damage to the vehicle or enabling them or rendering them useless. So you have things like that. Also, when you're tracking these particular goods, now individuals are able to say, all right, well, we're going to track the goods that are on this particular vehicle. So now we know the goods related to the vehicle, so they can do that. And then additionally, they will know who is all in that supply chain. A lot of organizations like to keep their supply chain unknown so that their competitors are not using their actual suppliers to build these same products, right? So you're all building a similar product and you're thinking about, okay, what ways can I cut costs? And so they will work with subcontractors, and these subcontractors will provide them quotes based upon what they can do and stuff like that. So when you are looking at all the different items that help build a product, you're like, okay, well, I know everybody in that supply chain, and that I know how they're doing logistics, right? How they're doing logistics, how they're logistically moving. So I could replicate the same thing within my organization. And then the other thing in terms of physical security, they will know the route that they travel on or the way that goods move, and then those could be intercepted or damaged within that route. Now, cloud is interesting. So a lot of people think about cloud, they're thinking about some files saved off as a distant place, but this is an issue for manufacturing organizations, right? You have your three different services, architectural services, but when you think about cloud, for manufacturing organization that say, all right, we're going to do everything in the cloud, that does pose an issue, right? So for manufacturing, one of the biggest things is availability, right? You want to make sure that the data that you're using and creating, it's available. Your systems need to be available. Confidentiality, when we talked about the third-party logistics, you need to make sure that there's a need to know, and then those that have the need to know, they have the particular clearance level to see the information grade, if it's high, medium, or low, in terms of what they can see. And then like when we talked about R&D, integrity, right? So imagine the feedback they're getting from customers, and that feedback is going to a particular site. It's being loaded somewhere on the cloud. And if someone was to go in and mess with the integrity of the data, meaning that they're going into the data, they're changing numbers and stuff like that, that creates an issue, because now the integrity of the data has been manipulated, has been altered, right? There's some things you can do to fight against that, you could require that if there are data uploaded or files uploaded, that there are hashes with them. So individuals could check hashes. They say, I'm going to check this particular hash of this file, and I'm going to make sure that the integrity hasn't been messed up. In terms of confidentiality, you have encryption. Now, this will, of course, slow down or reduce, it will slow down availability a bit, but the data will be encrypted. So if somebody does intercept the data, right, there's a man-in-the-middle attack, or someone just happens to go in and get access to another account, then that particular data is encrypted, and it will take time for it to be decrypted, but that's there. And then availability with the cloud is interesting. So if you're worried about availability with the cloud, realize that when you share something within the cloud, that data may be replicated on multiple systems, right? So you're saving this particular file, it may be on, server A, server B, server C. So it's shared on multiple platforms. In the event something goes down, there is a disaster recovery plan and business continuity that's in place. But the problem is, which ties to confidentiality, is that data available in plain text, meaning that it's not scrambled or something like that. Now, when you think about robots and artificial intelligence, you have to think about that these are systems that are able to do things on their own. Now, with that said, these particular systems do have programmed tasks, pre-programmed tasks, right? So when you think about the assembly line, and you think about years ago that there were thousands of people working at manufacturing plants, putting together pieces on a car, putting together door panels and stuff like that. A lot of that has been changed by automation. So what that means is that those jobs, those critical tasks, are now being done by robots, right? So if an attacker wants to, they could change the code, they could recode things, and they could have particular steps missing. So if it's a vehicle and it's a critical part of the vehicle, right, making sure that a particular joint is attached so the wheels don't fall off, they could recode it for it not to do that. And even if there is a quality check that's perhaps done by another robot, then that could be recoded so that particular robot looks over it. And the robot looks over it and thinks that, okay, well, this is good. My particular task is to say that everything is good, every third is good no matter what. And it just passes through that quality check. And that's something to think about too. Like when you have the human in the process, you're not worried about them being recoded or anything like that. You're just worried about them doing faulty work, or maybe they are the insider threat. But with robots, now you have multiple points of attack. Also, for the manufacturing organization, so you're in a manufacturing plant, you have your robots doing your various tasks. If there is a power shortage or the particular system that may be ultimately controlling them is shut down, then those particular automated machines are unable to work too, unless there is some large power supply or something like that. All right, so in terms of cybersecurity, there's a number of things to consider. One of the biggest things is the workforce. Is there an appropriate workforce? I mentioned earlier in the coming years, 3.5 million shortage of cybersecurity workers. There are going to be that many jobs open. Currently within the United States, we have over 500,000 jobs. In the Chicago metropolitan region, we have over 15,000 jobs open now for cybersecurity, right? So what it means is that we need to actually put people out in the workforce. The problem is, at least in my country, STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, there isn't the amount of people to do those particular type of jobs actually here, not available, right? So it needs to be created. So in the meantime, while manufacturing companies move towards Industry 4.0, they're doing this at risk as they are putting out systems that, one, aren't secure, may not be updated, and if they're using a legacy system that may have embedded operating systems, that they may be embedded operating systems that are no longer supported, that may come with their own inherent risk, and that's because they don't have the workforce to go in and check these items. Additionally, you have standards, policies, regulations. So there really isn't a particular standard for manufacturing, right? So NIST, they put out a number of standards, for cloud, mobile devices, cybersecurity, workforce development, all types of stuff, right? But there isn't something that manufacturing companies have to say, all right, well, we need to meet these requirements in order to have our particular system utilize these technologies, right? There's nothing across the board. It doesn't say anything like you must adhere to these particular cybersecurity controls identified within a risk management framework. There isn't that. So what that means is that you have numerous of organizations building these manufacturing floors according to different cybersecurity standards. There's not one set of controls, which means is some will be more secure than others and some will be less secure, right? That creates an issue in itself, because if I were to take something from my organization, right? So say within my organization, I have controls that say if I'm going to use my personal device, I have to have this software uploaded on my phone. So I need to have maybe a VPN. I need to have encryption. I need to have this particular application that allows me to log in remotely. And then I have something that checks the actual security posture of my mobile device. Now, this is my mobile device. If I dock it and use it as an actual desktop, I have to adhere to these things, right? So that's at my organization. But if I go to an organization that doesn't have any of that, right, they just need username and password to log into the network, then I am going to a less secure place using a device. So imagine if the roles are switched, right? I'm going from a less secure place to a more secure place, but I am given access to that network using my device to actually dock as a desktop. Now I am the risk to that entire organization. That's why there needs to be a unified policy, regulation, and standard across the board for manufacturers that are using IoT products. This goes into network defense. So when you think about network defense, you have to think about routers, firewalls, intrusion detection devices, whether intrusion prevention devices. And so you have to think about the network defense, how you are actually securing that particular organization. And so that as well ties into standards, policy, and regulations, because if there was something that was set, it would say you need to have a particular device that meets this level for confidentiality, similar to what the Common Criteria certification does with hardware software products. It would say you need to use a product that has evaluated assurance level 3, at least. That is the recommendation. So the individuals will go to products that have been certified by an independent party for cybersecurity to use within their organization to make sure their organization is secure. Now, application security is interesting. So application security, so when you are actually using various applications to do things, whether it may be data science, look at load balancing and stuff like that, it's important to actually do a code analysis to see what common weaknesses and enumerations actually exist within that software. Now, if it's proprietary, you probably can't, but what you could do is ask for a organization to provide a chart or a report that states these are the known vulnerabilities, so you can mitigate those risks at a system level or transfer those risks to another system, but find a way to mitigate them to an acceptable level. But I think it's important because lots of organizations more and more are using open source software and other items that they may have recoded and stuff like that to use to make their tasks and their jobs easier. The problem is a lot of these things are not built with security in mind. So with not building these items with security in mind, they're left with tons of vulnerabilities, and there are just a multitude of ways that they can actually be exploited. One particular application that you could run, right, is called Flaw Finder. So Flaw Finder looks for flaws within C and C++, right? So you can run Flaw Finder, and in a matter of minutes, you can see all the flaws that exist, and they're mapped to the CWEs, so you can see, okay, this item is allowing for privilege escalation, right? So you can say, okay, I need to make sure that I either take this code out, or I make sure that through doing maybe an internal test, right, internal pen test or whatever, to say that to see if privileges can actually be escalated, or if I can use another control to mitigate this risk down to an acceptable level. So those are things to do. But if you're going to do application security, what that means is that manufacturing company will need a software engineer who understands secure software development. The problem in that, again, is the workforce. So now you are competing with other organizations for that workforce that's being created, and that becomes yet another issue. Now, there are much more issues in terms of just IoT, augmented reality, big data, simulation, system integration. Right? Remember I mentioned about the two manufacturing companies, the individual going between point A and point B. If their particular organizations are doing things together, how does system integration work? How do various systems work amongst each other? Even simple things such as messaging across the network, are they able to accept the message formats, right? Does it work with the system that's actually is supposed to receive the data? So it's lots of things to think about when you think about Industry 4.0. There's lots of things that still need to be considered and done in order to make this secure. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk about just an example in terms of an actual security risk for Industry 4.0, and kind of talk about some of the ramifications and stuff like that. Now, when you think about things on the global scale, we can all agree on food, right? So imagine that a particular nation state targets a seed in development, right? So those on this lecture, you're probably familiar with GMOs, non-GMOs, modified organic products and stuff like that, and how a lot of these particular seeds have been genetically built so they can be used to withstand certain types of elements. But imagine that there's an actual attack that messes with how the actual seed gets developed, right? So you know that certain groups have various ailments, and so imagine building the seed to be susceptible to those elements or to particular weather conditions. Imagine one particular nation trying to negotiate with another nation, asking for, hey, we believe this part of the land, this shared land in the middle is ours, and no one agrees. They say, we don't agree, we don't believe that. So that nation state targets that company that is providing the seeds to that opponent or that opposing party, right? So now they have created, slowly, they have created a food shortage because now the crop doesn't yield, right? So now the crops don't yield. There are people that are, they're just hungry. Famines ran rampant and stuff like that. And so that would be an example of how this could be an issue. Now, what we generally don't talk about is really the, I guess you could say more of the darkened side. Like if you watch TV and you look at the news, they talk somewhat about some of the items in terms of what could actually happen. But we're just going to talk about the brief process of information warfare and stuff like that. So with Industry 4.0, you do have this unparalleled amounts of data and stuff like that you can do for the organization, but it also means the same thing for the individual who's serving as a bad actor. So this is the information warfare process taken from the U.S. Department of Army doctrine. So first you have information gathering. So you gather information, right? So this particular manufacturing plant is providing lots of information, right? You're getting stuff about the products, stuff about the employees, If the manufacturing plant has perhaps wireless thermostats and stuff like that, they're understanding maybe the temperature that's needed to run certain systems, right? Certain systems on the floor. If they have a server room, they could probably look at the data and say, all right, well, this is the coolest place of it all. There's probably something here that needs to be cooled. And so they can probably start deducting, what is actually in that particular room. So you have information gathering. Now, the other thing in information gathering, they can, when they're taking data on like employees, then they can take that data, put in a various tool, and there's a number of tools out there that will come with like Kali Linux, for example, and they can start figuring out stuff about the employee. They can start finding out their digital footprint and stuff like that. If they're posting pictures on social media and the social media doesn't remove the metadata, then they can start pulling the metadata from the pictures and figure out, movement around the city area, what time they come in from work, correlate that to the data that's captured when they check in and check out, things of that nature. So this leads to attack planning. So they gather all this information. Now they can plan an attack. They say, all right, well, we're going to attack third-party logistics. We know that John lives here, right? Because it's all data that's actually out there, open data, right? So we know that John lives here. We know that this is his route to get to work, assumed route, right? Is assumed route because he takes pictures on his route. Then the actual vehicle he uses has a GPS on it. So we know the route he gets to work, the route that he has within the vehicle, and it travels. And they can say, all right, well, we can plan an attack along this particular route, right? And then they can know that, all right, not only where he lives, but all the people that lives with him and stuff like that. All that could be part of the information gathering. Additionally, the information gathering could be solely just on the manufacturing plant itself, where they actually map out they see all the network traffic. They say, all right, well, let's see the network traffic. Let's see everything that's going in and out from the network. And then from there, they can plan an attack that particular way. All right, well, we can move these, we can get these items through. We know the virus, the antivirus they're using, and the antivirus they're using based upon their last update. We know that it's only looking for these signatures. So if we create a virus that has this signature, we should be able to go in and attack that particular plant. And then you have execution. So from gathering all this data to planning your attack, then you have execution. We actually execute that attack. Now you have the intelligence lifecycle. And so this is going back to information gathering, because I want to talk about the process of gathering information a bit, right? So you have planning and direction. So we know the manufacturing plant. We know where it's situated. And so now we have to say, okay, well, let's plan on how we would actually capture that data. So we mentioned traffic, right? So what we can do, we can run tools to capture packets. We could run tools that look at network topology, right? So we can run tools look at network topology, what servers are running, what operating system and stuff like that. We can run other tools that runs a number of known attacks against the actual website or within the system to see, okay, what is patched, what kind of what happens when this particular action is ran, right? And that would be a tool that simply looks at the security posture of the system internally and externally. It doesn't do anything, but it prints out a report in terms of vulnerable areas, right? And that's part of the collection. Now, what you have to do is you have processing and analysis and production. Now, this part is pretty interesting, right? So when you're processing information and then you need to analyze it. So in turn, analyzing it, it's interesting. So say you run a tool like Wireshark, you get all the actual network traffic. It's good. You capture all that stuff, but you still don't know which packets are being used with protocols, what's encrypted, what's not encrypted. You don't know that, right? So you just collected all this data, but you don't know that. So you run an analytics tool to show you exactly which items are encrypted, unencrypted, what types of, what's being used, what protocol, and it gives you that. Now here's the other thing. So you have that information, but the other thing you'll need to know what ports are open. So now you need to run a tool to figure out what ports are open, figure out what are the issues among those ports being used, and then you have that, right? So now you have two pieces of critical information, but in collection, hopefully you've collected a whole lot more. You collected information about maybe the individuals that are working. So now you know the employees that are working. They posted pictures. So you've taken the metadata from that photo that shows what particular model camera is being used, and showing the model camera, what that does, it allows one to be able to find out what actual camera or phone, what type of mobile device is attached to that camera. And then from there, you can say, all right, well, I'm going to look up exploits for that particular mobile device. So now you have the exploits for the mobile device. And then you can also see what's the common software loaded on that system. Now, I say that because when you travel to, I would say, developing countries, you'll notice that they are getting mobile devices from pretty much everywhere, right? They can be from Huawei, Blue, these particular devices. And so some of them come with malware on them, or they come with some faulty software. So that could be something that could be taken advantage of. So all that is put in analysis. Now you have analysis production. So now you're doing correlation between, all right, well, we know employee X has this device. It's being used here. It has this particular application. And this is the actual type of traffic that's occurring. So if we were to use that device to send items out, perhaps it would not be noticed because it would blend in with the actual outgoing traffic, right? So you know that they'll blend in. Additionally, you would know what ports are open. And if you know what ports open, say there's 20, 30 ports open, then you know, or you can deduct that organization probably doesn't do any due diligence about their cybersecurity in terms of network defense, right? So also in the analysis part, when you're running your particular report, when you're looking at your reports, this could also have you go back and collect more data, because there may be something you didn't realize, like, okay, well, they have 30 ports open. I could probably collect data using this other tool, and I could collect even more data and then further go with my analysis. And then once that's done, then you have dissemination, right? Then it's just getting the information out. And so getting information out is not that difficult, but then it's just providing information to those people that would actually do that particular action. So these are the things that a particular nefarious character would do in terms of exploiting a manufacturing plant. So organizations that are using these technologies really have to consider, what are all the ramifications to my organization, and how susceptible am I for using this technology? I'm not saying that using the technology is bad. What I'm saying is that if the organization is going to use the technology, they need to be fully aware of what they need to do in order to use it in a secure manner, right? It could be things as disabling USB drives, right? So now no one can just take data off the network and bring with them out, right? It might be disabling USB drives. It might also be maybe mobile devices aren't allowed in the building, right? You don't want individuals taking pictures of your actual floor, because they could be, I guess you could say, mimicking or copying the process that you do to actually develop a product quicker. Your lean manufacturing process. You don't want someone taking your process and actually doing the same thing. You don't want them replicating it. That could be something as well. So these are just some things to think about, and why it's key that manufacturers think about having a set of basic cybersecurity controls before they actually run this technology. And again, one of those items could be running tests on particular products or applications before they integrate to the larger system, to know if that particular item causes or creates a new vulnerability within the overall system. And I'd like to thank you for attending the presentation. I'm Dr. Maurice Dawson. I'm the director of the Illinois Institute of Technology Center for Cybersecurity and Forensic Education within the College of Computing at Illinois Institute of Technology.